Welcome back to Talk of the Town. We're joined by Jim Keith from Keith Funeral Services. Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So, planning. Let's talk a little bit about planning. I mean, how do you break the ice with funeral stuff? You just talk about it.
You just talk about it.
You just talk about it.
Yeah, you talk about it with your wife or your kids or your attorney or your funeral director. You talk about it with someone that you trust and want to help handle things down the road.
Do you do that? Do people just set up appointments and just come talk to you, or do you?
All the time. All the time. We do a lot of that pre-planning, and a lot of people just want to get it out of the way so their kids aren't, burdened with the decisions. And it isn't so much the money, but it's the decision making, knowing exactly what mom and dad want. And that's something that's really helpful whenever someone comes in and a death occurs and they have to know what they want.
Absolutely. And then somebody to kind of guide them through that process. I mean, have you ever seen somebody like with an idea that's good in theory but not so much in practice?
I say a lot of times to most people that come in, if I do my job correctly, I'm going to answer all your questions, but then create some new ones that you didn't think about.
There you go.
And that's usually what happens.
Like what? Like what are some of those questions?
Well, we'll talk about, are they going to have a service?
Yeah.
Are they going to have a mass? Are they going to have readings? Have they thought about who's going to do the readings? Do they want to get their grandkids involved and maybe something like that? Are they going to go to the cemetery afterwards? Are they going to postpone it until a later time? Are they going to have people from out of town have a reception first? Those are little logistical things that they don't think about.
Right.
But
I mean, it's so easy
to.
just to get focused on the passing of somebody that it really is an event. I mean, passing, what you do with it, it's kind of an event. It has beats to it. It has a rhythm to it.
And I've heard people say that it's kind of like being a wedding planner on 4 days' notice. And it's
you got to kind of keep it light,
You do have to keep it light.
Because it's so easy to just get morose about the whole thing. And when you look at it, yes, it's a celebration of life. But how do you plan that? It's like your going away party.
It is your going away party. And I've had people that have known they were going away in a finite amount of time and had to party first. And I think that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
I do. I really do. I had a secretary up north whose brother, he knew he was gone, and they had a party and he got to say goodbye to everybody.
That's wonderful.
It was.
Have the funeral first and then and then have plans for the burial.
We're on to something.
There you go. So what are some of the things that people do with pre-planning?
Well, mostly they just come in and tell me what they want.
Yeah.
I get all the vital statistic information, mother's maiden name, which will stump them if anything's going to, place of birth, highest level of education, just all the demographic stuff, social security number, stuff like that you have to have for the death certificate. Then we write down, we talk about what they want, we write it down. They can change it, edit it, tweak it.
There's some legalities in dying. I mean, there's some rules to dying, aren't there?
There are some things you have to do. A lot of people will say, okay, all my pre-arrangements are in my will. Well, the will doesn't get read until probably weeks after death. So you have to tell somebody what you want, where you're going to be buried. You have to have all that figured out before the will is read because it never gets done in time.
Yeah. So how much of this is financially based? And do people kind of pay in advance sometimes?
They can. Sometimes it's a good idea and sometimes not. It isn't always the best idea for people depending on their situation. If you have a $100,000 life insurance policy but you don't have a whole lot of day-to-day cash, then I'm going to say don't pay. Because you have that money down the road and you need your money now.
Yeah.
But if you pay now, the good thing is it's guaranteed that if you give me $3,000 today.
Can you make some payments? Can you make like installments over time?
You can. I don't like to do that because it's almost like buying a car. You pay more for the car over time.
Sure.
But what I let people do is if you start with a finite amount, it has to be at least $500, then you just send me money whenever you want. We just keep amending it until it's paid off. Then you don't pay any interest.
So do you have somebody on the chance that, something happens to you? Like what if you go out of business?
Well,
can you imagine your funeral party goes out of business?
I'm thinking it would be the end of the world. My daughter is acting like she wants to get involved in the business, so there's going to be some secession thoughts. I could always sell to one of the big corporations, but I don't want to do that. I'm the only local funeral home on the island. I want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Hilton Head's about being local, and so I'm not going to do that. You can always find someone that wants to take over, work for a while and then take over. So I'm not too worried about that.
But more of the reason though why you need to plan. Just keep it planned.
Just keep it planned. That's right.
Perfect. Thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
with us, Jim Keith, Keith Funeral. We will be right back with more Talk of the Town.